Let's talk about what's going on with the executive branch, because as much as I think these like Democrat voters who are just, let's just use a cliche, sheeple, who are just bleating at the calls of their grifter class and the executive branch, I think Joe Biden knows exactly what he's doing. I said earlier that the mandate, the decree over vaccine mandates is intended just to cause chaos and sow dissent within the states and break apart the bonds of this country. And I think I've got some more hard evidence for that. From Jacob Bogage. He is a Washington Post reporter covering the U.S. Postal Service, and he says, news. White House official tells me USPS workers are not included in President Biden's vaccine requirement, but we strongly encourage them to comply with these standards. That's a massive chunk of the federal workforce, 644,000 and growing, that's not required to be vaccinated. This is stunning. One of the things we've learned during the pandemic is the Postal Service is a key part of the national infrastructure and homeland security. We've seen what's happened to the service when there have been pandemic-related staffing shortages, but USPS workers are exempt. To put in context, OSHA will fine a business more than $14,000 for testing violation, but the U.S. Postal Service, a Goliath of a federal agency, is exempt. He says, quickie write up on the USPS exemption, then he links to the source. Do you know what this means?
That means that Biden knows that they would refuse and have to fire a bunch of postal services, and we can't.
Yep. That means when it comes to U.S. federal infrastructure, they said, we can't deal with staffing shortages in the post office, exempt them. But that means Biden knows this mandate will result in massive resignations across the country. So it's intentional.
Yeah, you're not going to even be able to.
He knows what's going to happen from this, and he's shielding the federal government from it. The only thing I can see is that they want people to quit. They want the labor shortages. They want the staffing. They want the food shortages. They want the collapse of business. They know it is happening.
They want freedom-loving people to not be able to properly contribute to the society anymore. They want to.
It's the Great
I
Reset.
think they might be stupid and afraid. It might be that. It might not be anything malicious. They really think they're helping. Is that possible?
No.
He thinks he's saving people?
I don't think so.
No, this is the point.
This is incredible.
For Biden to come out and be like,
yeah, he knows.
We are going to exempt the post office.
Why?
And they're concerned about staffing shortages. They know the mandate will just result in people quitting their jobs. At a time when we have 10.9 million job openings, a record number, we only filled 235,000 positions, and it's expected to get worse because the Great Resignation is escalating. Then Joe Biden does this, signaling he knows this will result in mass resignations. Yo, I hope you're ready for the shortages. Google search closed, shortages, and have fun scrolling through the tens of thousands of news stories every day for the months about every business that's closed due to labor and supply shortages.
Yeah, and if you quit your job over not getting the vaccine, I think in most places, I don't know if it's a federal thing or a state thing, you don't even qualify for any benefits or unemployment. They're just not going to let you.
What if you get fired? If you refuse to quit and then they have to terminate you?
I don't know, but they're trying to, because nowadays, like if there's so many job openings, there's so much benefits that you can do where you can quit your job and just live off the government until you find another job, which there are tons of jobs for you to find. They kind of want to make it harder for you to do any of that. They don't want you to get any unemployment. I don't remember if that went into effect or if that was federal.
They ended the federal benefits. The eviction moratorium is over. And a lot of conservatives have been like, oh, this is good. It means people will go back to work. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. People are quitting their jobs right now. They call it the Great Resignation. We lost, I think, 11 million jobs over 3 months from, it was April, May, and June. 11 million jobs. We didn't add that many. We added not like 2-point-something million. So people, they're quitting their jobs. They're resigning. You can't get unemployment when you do that.
I love how under Trump, when the lockdowns were starting to come out, Trump beat all the job growth expectations. All of it. Beat all of it. Like by flying colors. And as soon as Biden came in, immediately undershorting them by like large margins. Like immediately.
There's a point where I say it feels like it's on purpose.
Yeah.
Because this action they took with protecting the post office shows they know it's going to destroy the economy.
The thing is, I keep coming to the point. It's like, why would even like the deep state or the people, whoever's pulling the strings behind Biden, if they had America's best interest in mind, why would they be doing all this? And usually the thought process I always come to is that it must be China.
Yeah, I don't think it's America's best interest.
It has China. This all has China's best interest in mind. China's got access to trillions of dollars worth of resources from the Taliban now in Afghanistan. America's economy is going down. In my opinion, I do believe cryptocurrency is probably going to end up hurting the US dollar, and we're just printing stuff all willy-nilly. Like everything we're doing, China's looking at is like, okay, great, we're going to take advantage over these next 4 years, maybe even 8 years, maybe 12 years.
This is Thucydides' trap. Are you familiar? We talk about it a bit.
Let me hear it.
So they say whenever a rising economic power is about to displace the dominant economic power, war breaks out. Well, what's been happening between the U.S. and China? There's been saber rattling, but there's been cyber war. Cyber war's been active. That's like fourth generational warfare. Now we're in full scale propaganda. You got John Cena issuing his Mandarin apology over accidentally. What do you do? He called Taiwan a country.
When it comes to John Cena in that specific situation, part of me doesn't really blame him, because I feel like at the same time he was probably also looking out for everybody involved in those films that he's been making.
I blame him 100%.
Because that's the thing is,
bro, you got to take responsibility. You can't let people off the hook for this stuff.
I know. I don't blame him, but I'm just trying to put myself in his point of view. You make multiple $100 million movies. You're the star of multiple $100 million movies. You probably got over hundreds of thousands of jobs on the line between the marketing department, distribution, people in production, your fellow actors, everything, people in the management. It's like, it branches out, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of jobs based around him as being the centerpiece star of all these movies. And all these movies are now specifically pretty much tailored around getting the Chinese distribution. So if he came out and if he was like, I'm not going to apologize to China, F China, they would instantly cut every single movie deal he had. Either some of these movies probably would have been hundreds of millions of dollars in the toilet, gone, or they would spend tens of millions of dollars to replace him.
Good.
But then it hurts.
So what?
Hundreds of thousands of people who had nothing to do with anything.
Too bad.
The people in the production, the people in the unions.
Too bad.
Just all he has to do is
we shouldn't be doing deals with
country
concentration camps that are going to pull something like this.
We shouldn't. And I
we should say, do you want the movie or not? Have it or leave it. But people are greedy. And so it's like, look, the people who did those jobs got paid for those jobs.
He would probably be sued for hundreds of millions of dollars too. So
good. Take it. I mean, maybe people shouldn't be such spineless, whiny babies.
I kind of draw the line between, I guess, stupidity and morality. It's obviously from a morality point of view, he should stood his ground. Maybe many people would, but I feel like from the stupidity point of view, it's like all you got to do is say sorry to China and everything gets to keep going as normal. Or you don't say sorry and now you're going to be in the fight for your life.
You know what, Joey?
End of your life.
You're right. It's just 15 days. It's just a mask. It's just a vaccine. It's just a booster. It's just a booster every 5 months. It's just your twice daily Pfizer pill. It's just. No, you put your foot down and you say, sorry, China, I'm apologizing for not apologizing. Okay? I'm saying sorry. I'm not going to apologize to you.
I just think more for him specifically, if I was in his shoes, I think it's just going to open up a whole can of worms of shit that he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his life just for 2 little words.
Yep. So you want to bend the knee to the Chinese Communist Party, or do you want to stand up and live on your feet?
I don't think that Hollywood should even be bending the knee at all to China, which they are. The entire
so if China offered you $50 million to start putting out video, $50 million to start praising the CCP and saying communism is good, you'd do it?
I wouldn't go out of my way to start praising them like someone like, I guess, LeBron is doing, for example. Like he's, purposely not standing for the flag, kneeling. I'm pretty sure he's came out and said some positive stuff about China.
Well, he was like, "Oh, we shouldn't get involved,"
Yeah, I mean, John Cena, to my knowledge at least, he's not going out of his way to praise China. He said one thing about Taiwan, and then just backtracked it and just went back his own path. I don't see him as someone that's going out there praising the CCP every chance he gets. He was like, hey, you said this one thing. We can't have that. We're going to lose billions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of jobs. We're going to sue you for $100 million, all this, all that. All we need you to do is just issue this Mandarin apology. Personally, I would cut my losses. I would do it and live to fight another day. Who knows? Maybe John Cena will come out in 10 years.
Imagine if every single person said, no, China.
That has to come down to, then people should stop going to the movies and tell, well, that's the thing, is that's why the NBA doesn't care about the American audience anymore, because they're just going to get all their money from China.
Because people like John Cena will get on his knee and beg Xi Jinping.
There's always going to be people that would do that.
Right, they're bad people. See, this is what we're experiencing right now. You've got a lot of people in the United States. I said this the other day. Some people got mad. I'm not referring to any of our audience as cowards. We are a nation of cowards. I am not saying every person in this country is a coward. I'm not saying the history of this nation is built on cowardice. Quite the opposite. I'm saying our current generation is the good times making weak men. We have a disproportionate amount of cowards who won't speak up for themselves or their own families to save their own lives at their workplace. And now where are we? You know, we'll see where things go after this. Maybe this is the point where Biden cranked the heat up on the boiling pot and the frogs are going to jump out. But I tell you, there's probably going to be a lot of people who still won't say anything, who still won't protest. And if you think it's bad right now, you're going to lose your job because of this overreach by Biden. This is one of the most extreme bits of overreach, acts of overreach we've seen in a long time. If you do not speak now, I don't know what you can expect to have a year from now. You're like, but I have kids. Yeah, well, I hope you like.
That's what a lot of cops, why they're
enforcing. Well, teach your kid Mandarin already. You know what I mean? Just start teaching them Mandarin while you're at it. That's what you're going to. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, no.
If you refuse to speak up and defend your rights and stand up for your nation and the Constitution, my advice to you is to get, Rosetta Stone Mandarin right now. And I mean this 100% seriously. Have your kids learn it.
Learn it anyway. I think Mandarin's great. If we could communicate with the Chinese, man, that's the step we need towards global peace.
They're going to need it when China is the dominant economic power, putting pressure on the U.S. and straining us for resources, forcing us to adopt their cultural norms. We're going downhill from here.
I was just thinking about unity because you were saying I don't think unification is necessarily the way, and I'm thinking just bland unification isn't Hitler unified Germany. He was all about we must unify the fatherland, unify
by killing people.
Yeah. So unity for the sake of unity is not a net positive always. What are we unifying behind? The Fediverse, a decentralized crypto-backed economy, a new political system where we can remove the representatives and have direct representation. I could see unifying behind a system, but like the Constitution, American original Constitution, they unified behind that. It wasn't unifying behind George Washington and his ideas. It was unifying behind a document.
You know why the Constitution's amazing? It's the amendment process. The problem is the country has become so divided we can't amend it. I mean, we've had amendments in the past few decades, but at this point, we are really close to a convention of states, which would be fantastic. We need, I think, only a couple more states to be Republican. The problem is I don't think the Republicans are going to do anything.
But we could do that. A convention of states is probably the direction we should go with the internet, the ability to get 100 million people with their eyes on one thing at a time.
Yeah. I mean, most of these Republicans are all just paid off by the same people the Democrats are paying off. And I feel like, for instance, China has population on their side, just an immense large population. And that's going to be one of their biggest, leg ups against America. And I feel like that is one of the reasons why the Democrats are just letting people from the southern border just flood into this country just to increase our population, hand them all money, create more consumers. And, hey, everyone coming in, we're going to give you $10,000 a month. Go buy an iPhone. Go use Amazon. Here, go get a house. And just inflate everything.
Look, when you've got half the country cheering for the end of the American government, I'm like, you'd think people in the American government would be like, I have a problem with this. The issue is they're not destroying it. They're subverting it to use the infrastructure of the government to implement things they want. So Joe Biden bypasses the two other branches of government in one of the most brazen acts of executive authority I've ever seen. I'll be honest. Obama straight up killed people, American citizens without charge or trial.
Bush created that stupid Patriot Act. That's
Bush signed Presidential Directive 51, giving the president the ability to overthrow the U.S. government, creating a new constitutional government with a continuity coordinator, a centralized. That it creates one unified branch in control of the other branches, and the only requirements are that there be severe loss of life somewhere in the world. What? So it's not been tested in the courts. The Supreme Court would say, screw off, you can't do this. But it'll be interesting to see now that Joe Biden has completely undermined the Supreme Court and the legislative branch, if he does say, due to the widespread death of the pandemic and the refusal of people to get vaccinated, I hereby invoke National Security Presidential Directive 51. There may have been an update to it, like a newer version, where he says, We will create a new enduring constitutional government with a new continuity coordinator. We're in charge. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.